Why hello there, demons. Welcome back to the Sound Rave. Here on this channel, we explore music, media, and mental health every week. Alright, so I guess this is gonna be the way that I do my stuff from now on, until I can figure out like what to fix with the stand thing. I think with the stand, it's like I'm too far away because it can't like bend correctly over my monitor because of like the size of the monitor. So I'm just gonna do it this way. So I was editing a video about that indie game Lucifer Within Us. It was going to be like a let's play kind of thing, but my audio is really messed up in there for some reason, which is why I was testing it right now. So instead of using the audio in that, I'm going to actually just do a voiceover. So instead of a let's play video, this is actually going to be whatever this ends up being. So I was telling like my mom that I was playing this game, Lucifer Within Us, and she's a very Christian woman, and so she did not share my excitement about it, and you know, that's understandable, but it also got me thinking, because like she and other people have always been like, Rachel, why are you always so into like these like dark themes or horror fiction and things like that? And you know, like my gut reaction is like just that, oh, I just like it, it's just pretty cool stuff. But I mean, like there has to be like a deeper reason, I think, because this is something I've been into since like I could read. Like I remember very vividly having a journal dedicated specifically to notes that I found on the internet about vampire biology and what makes them have like such supernatural powers and things like that. And it's just something that I've always just been like really fascinated with. Not only horror, but also like dark fantasy and things like that. I always think about that quote from Guillermo del Toro. Since childhood, I've been faithful to monsters. I have been saved and absolved by them, because monsters, I believe, are patron saints of our blissful imperfection, and they allow and embody the possibility of failing. So not only are the monstrous just another version of looking at ourselves, quite obviously that's what they are, but it's another way of looking at our own lives. And that also drives me to thinking about like, you know, speaking of vampires, my and other people's love for Astarion. And if you play the game, Baldur's Gate 3, Astarion has affinity for other beings that are considered monstrous, because he himself struggles with his vampirism and sees himself as powerful, but also as a horrible monster, and also not powerful enough. So he has like a whole complex with that. But if you side with other monsters in the game, it will up his approval rating, because it's like being able to accept himself as a failure, whether that's like a moral failure in terms of like his twisted sense of morality, which honestly at this point in the game, I'm in like Act 3, I'm not sure if his twisted sense of morality is because of his vampirism or if he had that before he was turned. But that is something that I think about a lot in terms of his character, that he sees himself as a failure because he's not powerful enough to disobey Cazador or to fight him off on his own. And so with the new powers inflicted by the illithid worm, it's like he has a second chance to redeem himself as a failure and actually destroy Cazador and become successful, whether that's through becoming as powerful as Cazador or just killing him.
Of course I envy him. Why wouldn't I? The problem with what Cazador has done is that he did it to me. If the time comes and I can stay one move ahead of him, I'll take his place before his blood can hit the floor. Doesn't it sound delightful? For the lucky little vampire on the winning side. After 200 years of shit, pure shit, I think I deserve something better.
And honestly, there's a lot of different stories like that throughout other horror media or darker media that's really engaging with those darker parts of ourselves and how to not only let go of the past but combat the demons that threaten us in the present and that follow us, so that we can have a more successful future.
I don't assign them a specific value, but I am very mindful of the way I deal with them in the movies and in the books, because I assign them a specific function and I try to take them to the extreme with that. I make them victims, or I make them sympathetic, or I make them brutal parasites, and they become a metaphor for something else. Obviously, monsters are living, breathing metaphors that, for me, half of the fun is explaining them socially, biologically, mythologically, and so forth. There's a great phrase, and I'm going to misquote it, in the Tao, saying essentially that whenever we consider something good, at the same time we are deeming something bad. When we consider something light, it's because we're considering something dark. And it's better to just understand everything as the everything and abandon ourselves to it and so forth. But I think that's what it tells you.
And that's why there's a lot of the love for the final girl trope all over TikTok and things like that. To have the final girl aesthetic is not just a visual aesthetic, but also it's like an allegory for being able to fight those demons and come out as the winner, as the final girl. And if you look at the movies that feature this trope, it's that same girl at the beginning is just, average, everyday girl next door. But when presented with the horrors of the movie or fiction, then you really have to put your back against the wall and see what you're made of. And I think that's one of the reasons why Final Girl has become one of the more popular tropes, because a lot of people either see themselves in that trope or wish that they could, as a form of wish fulfillment. So today is a really big day for me. As you can see, I went with the Stray Kids fit with the bandana. It's a big day for me because I'm driving to orientation for a new part-time job. It's all the way across town, across a couple towns actually, and it would be the furthest I've ever driven before in my life, since I just got my license back in January. So it's now April and I'm about to drive an hour away. I can do it. I've like seen the drive a few times, so it seems pretty simple. The only thing is that it is also now raining. I've never driven in the rain, but my app just told me it's supposed to stop soon, and it does look like it's stopping. It's not raining too bad, but I'm also gonna drive like a little bit slower just in case, because I want to be safe. There's another Guillermo del Toro quote that's like, I knew that monsters were far more gentle and more desirable than the monsters living inside nice people. Accepting that you're a monster gives you the leeway to not behave like one. When you deny being a monster, you behave like one. And that's also really reflected in Astarion, as like in the first act of the game, before he even mentions it to the player, he kind of has like that vibe where he's like denying it a bit, or just keeping that fact of his vampirism to himself and going out and feeding on animals and things. And then when he actually like accepts it and explains this to the player, then the player, of course, the player choices influence Astarion's choices as well, but he's more able to restrain himself and not just bite you in your sleep without asking. And you know, you can actually just go up to him and be like, hey, it's okay for you to do that if you want to.
Or maybe you just get lucky.
Shit. No, it's not what it looks like. I swear. I wasn't going to hurt you. I just needed, well, blood.
There, in the dim firelight, you see him for what he really is. A vampire, a slave to sanguine hunger.
But yeah, so this game that I've been playing in the background is called Lucifer Within Us, and it's also like similar to what I've been talking about. You play as an exorcist that exorcises these digital demons out of the biotechnical implants in humans. So it's like a cyberpunk kind of thing where you have like those implants, but you can also get demons haunting, possessing those implants and making you do things related to like demonic possession, like murders and stuff. So as the exorcist, you go through and you solve the murders and you like just exorcise the demons from them. But yeah, these demons, like demons in most other media based off of Christian mythology, really do feed off of the deeper fears in these people and make them act on it. So like, if someone is feeling inferior, then there's a specific demon that would feed off of that and really force them to become the monster that Guillermo was talking about, because they won't admit that they are feeling that way. So in essence, this game, you have to force these people to face their fears when you investigate the murders that they've done. So it's really, really fun. I really do recommend it. I got it on itch.io. You can also go to Kitfox Games directly. And yeah. So for this next part, as far as facing my own fears, there are a lot of studies that show that consuming horror media, like horror movies, video games, books, things like that, can really help psychologically. Not only can they help you face your fears in everyday life, they can help you manage your anxiety by providing a controlled experience for that. And so by that, I mean, like, with everyday anxiety, anything can set it off, depending on, you know, who you are and what would trigger that. And you kind of don't know what's going to happen within that day that would make you anxious. But if you know that you're putting on a horror movie, you know it's going to be scary. You know that it's going to trigger your anxiety. So it's like a controlled experiment in a way, versus facing whatever randomness life throws at you. I have arrived. I'm a little bit stressed out, but like, I did it. No major incidents, no real minor incidents either. Okay, but the important thing is that I got here safely, and I'm good. I did good, I think. People passed me a lot. Maybe they were thinking I was going too slow, but I felt like, you know, it's better to be safe than sorry. And I was going the speed limit. Everybody else was speeding. That's not my fault. So, all right, I'm heading into orientation right now. Alrighty, day 2 of orientation complete. It's kind of boring, to be honest, you know, just like your standard orientation stuff, safety stuff, and the basics of the job, all the like little e-learnings you have to do on your car, on the computer and everything. But my computer is so slow at this in the learning center, and it kept just being so super slow, and it wouldn't like load. It kept crashing on me, so I only did like a tiny bit of what I was supposed to. I'll come back like early on day 3 so I can do most of it and get like the computer that actually works. So yeah, here I am. I'm about to make the drive back home. It says traffic is heavy right now, which I tried to leave before traffic got too bad, but I actually don't know how to get out of here. But I'm gonna eat my lunch that I bought, and maybe after that the traffic will be okay. But like, I don't know, I kind of just want to go home and then eat. It's like this cranberry walnut salad and buffalo wing pieces with an apple and caramel, and then I got this like, it's like the sparkling water, so it's gonna be delicious. I think I'm just gonna go home, to be honest. I might have like the apples and then just go. To really gaze upon a person that is not an idea in your head, an idea of race, but a person, complete. That's why I embrace monsters, because monsters are ultimately the patron saints of otherness, everything people say should not be. Horror movies provide a safe outlet to explore our fears. Horror movies don't create fear, they release it. You don't enter the theater and pay your money to be afraid. You enter the theater and pay your money to have the fears that are already in you. Horror movies are a way to vicariously face and destroy your fears through whatever character or real events that are displayed in the movie, show, or game. So while you might not literally be a vampire in real life, you can maybe really relate to Astarion's feeling of otherness and feelings of both wanting to deem himself a monster, but also being outraged at other people deeming him a monster. And that, of course, is a direct correlation to like real life vampirism. But you can overlay that with whatever fears you have in your own life. You can overlay that with fears of being homosexual and like both being afraid of your own orientation, but also being very angry that the world has othered you because of it. So that's just another example of being able to face your fears via horror media. It also gives you a free space to explore your reactions to whatever that fear is without having to like actually face your fear in that moment. So you can explore Astarion's conflict with his vampirism without having to then really examine your own worries and anxieties about coming out, if that makes sense. It's not a direct one-to-one, but it's the best thing I could come up with right now. It also helps to feel like this like morbid curiosity that we all have. Another positive is that horror movies really help us gain resilience and coping skills. So it can like help you manage your emotions and navigate these like really dangerous and traumatic experiences by being able to like manage your emotions. Because like with a movie or a game or whatever, you can pause it or put it down for a moment if you're feeling too nervous, and then you can like do your deep breaths or whatever it is that you need, and then get back to the media that you were involved in. I'm going to read directly from this blog post that I have pulled up. Facing your fears and being aware of your emotions are the first steps in learning how to navigate them. A January 2021 study found that horror fans were more psychologically resilient and exhibited fewer symptoms of distress during the emotionally draining months of the pandemic. Simulations can teach how to navigate dangerous situations and manage their emotions. This is how the hypothesis that horrors can teach coping strategies got its grounding. For example, you may have noticed some actions you performed during frightening movie moments: covering your eyes, turning on the lights, pausing the movie, reading the plot beforehand, starting to talk with friends, turning down the sound, breathing deeply, or screaming. These are examples of how you healthily regulate the intensity of your anxiety and stress in these moments. And you know that during a movie, you can freely express your fears without any consequences. According to the research, this may lead to less reliance on maladaptive mechanisms such as emotional suppression or avoidance behavior, and improved emotional regulation skills in real life. This is associated with psychological resilience. Horror movies help us develop a toolkit for dealing with anxiety, stress, and intense feelings while we have fun from the comfort of our couches. Horror movies improve our self-confidence and help us feel less lonely. Watching scary movies with others can be rewarding. Talking about our experiences and feelings with others while or after watching can also help us feel better. Horror movies offer a sense of control and a good distraction. Screen captures give us a surrogate experience where the threat is simple, distant, and controllable. It's similar to watching Let's Players instead of playing the game yourself. Maybe you're interested in the plot line or mechanics or art of a specific video game, but either can't bring yourself to actually play it because you deem yourself as not being that great at playing video games, or because you can't afford it, or because you just want to have that experience of playing games with someone when people you know are actually really busy. I do this specifically with horror video games like Resident Evil or something like that, where the horror is too immediate and too interactive for me to deal with. So I'll watch someone else play it and enjoy the game vicariously through them. And that's another way that when we watch horror movies, we are vicariously dealing with that horror ourselves. There is also an honors thesis submitted by Sarah Elizabeth Waldrop to my alma mater, Texas State University, that is about this very specific phenomenon. This paper is titled "The Enemy is Fear: The Psychological Benefits of the Horror Genre Through Resilience and Coping." And it's about 39 pages, but it's very thorough in its examples. I highly recommend reading it, but I will just read the abstract for you. This thesis examines how the horror genre can psychologically benefit audiences by enabling coping mechanisms and a greater resilience to fear. The common assumption is that horror films exist merely to terrify audiences, with well-timed jump scares and gory death scenes. However, these films are wildly diverse in their methods of evoking fear and are far more valuable than they are often given credit for. Viewing one's own fears through the controlled environments of fiction can allow viewers to face anxieties head-on and consider ahead of time how they would cope when confronted with fear in the real world. The horror genre allows for anxieties and phobias to be captured through a large scope, implying antagonists that are truly terrifying in order to fully explore the reality of fear in a way that validates the feelings of the viewer. Existing research on the link between horror and psychology is discussed, accompanying the analysis of several horror films which deal with a variety of issues. Horror is an ideal setting to discuss some of the most serious topics of today's society and human nature in general, such as disease, misogyny, parenthood, and the broader topic of death. By analyzing films that depict these themes through the scope of horror, this thesis aims to support the idea that horror is a meaningful medium which can truly benefit viewers. And I'm really inclined to agree with her, which is why I'm making this video. Comment below if you would like a more thorough deep dive on this topic. This is just kind of my thoughts about it, and yeah. So as a lifelong fan of horror and all things gothic and macabre, I feel like I have also built up this sense of psychological resilience over time. I used to have just like really extremely terrible anxiety and depression, and now, of course, that's still around, but through dealing with my fears and anxieties in such a way, first vicariously through the media I consumed, and then head on through dealing with my own baggage, I have built up this resilience in my life where the things that used to trigger me no longer do, and I can acknowledge when I need to do more work on that, or self-regulation. And so that, and combined with medication for these things, and of course I'm not a doctor, I'm just someone on the internet with a microphone. It's just really helped me overall. One of my biggest and most lifelong fear has been that of driving. Driving has always given me intense anxiety, to the point where at one point I could not even be behind the wheel because I would have a panic attack every time. I was also in a car accident around this time last year that really shook me up a lot, but I was able to not only get my license finally, I actually drove for the longest time that I ever have yesterday. And you know what? Nothing happened. Nothing that I was afraid of happened. I wasn't pulled over. I wasn't in an accident. Nobody honked at me. Nothing happened. I arrived to my destination safely, and I arrived back home safely, and I drove for a total of 3 hours in one day. And that's something that I was really proud of. Not only that, but also my parents, my family, my friends were also really proud of me. And most importantly, I was really proud of myself. So I think that, yes, on the surface, being interested in the darker themes of media can seem a bit strange to other people, but I think, at least in my case, it's really been helping me a lot. I don't have like an interesting outro for this. If you've gotten this far, comment down below what's your favorite trope from horror, or your favorite type of supernatural being, and please explain why. And if that has helped you in your everyday life in any meaningful way, even if it's something really mundane, please let me know.